What's up, everybody? This is What is Sports. I'm your host, Tyler Dietz. With me is Nick Grant. How's it going, Nick?
Hey, man, it's going pretty well, pretty solid, excited, and ready to talk about some college football.
Yeah, man. Awesome. And also joining us is JP, back from helping his horses.
Tending to my horses' feet. So, yeah, the horses, they're, one has an injury one day, then another one has injury the next day. The big thing with horses is that you don't want a horse's foot or leg to be injured because then they can die. It's because they have very poor circulation to their legs.
Whenever you told me that your horses were injured, and I texted a joke, I said, tell him I said, hey. But then after I sent that, I was like, oh, if his horse is injured, does that mean he has to shoot it?
No.
Or is that just like
maybe
in the old times? I guess things are different now.
Maybe that's happened once in the past at our land.
Yeah,
but
I felt bad after I said that. I was like, oh.
No. I mean, they're doing better now. It's just one horse just has like chronic hoof problems, but you just like if a horse can't walk, then they're gonna die. So anyway, but they're doing better.
That's
now,
good to hear.
So.
I'm relieved. Yep. What are your horses' names, by the way? I never asked.
So we bought them we bought them from another person whenever they were like 8 or so. So we did not pick the names. They just came with names. So one his name is Smarty Party. Okay.
Nice.
The one is CD Speedy because he used to be racehorse.
But both of them sound like racehorses. Smarty Party and CD Speedy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other one is called Powder Reed. So anyway, Smarty Party, he's the prettiest horse, but he's also he like tried to kill my dad once.
Ooh.
And so we don't really mess with him. My dad was riding one day and he totally he fell over on my dad backwards. He reared up and fell over my dad and cracked a few ribs.
Damn.
So we don't really mess with him that much.
Yeah, I don't think I would either.
Smarty Party, more like Party Pooper.
Yeah, that's right.
That was terrible, but
well, and okay, I know we're already like off topic. Does a horse come whenever they're called by name? Does it respond? Don't. Do they respond to their names and stuff?
Ours don't, because like we don't live out there, and we only interact. They have human interaction once a day when they're fed. That's about it.
Oh, gotcha.
Maybe if they're if they're ridden every day.
Yeah.
But since they're not, and they're they're definitely domesticated and everything, somewhat trained, but they're still kind of on the wild side. But
gotcha. But all right. Anyways, to get into it. This is What is Sports. Believe it or not, this is not a horse podcast. We're a sports talk podcast. If you like what you hear this episode, like us on our Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter at WhatIsSports1 with no question mark. If you haven't yet, subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, or Google Play. And leave us a rating and review if you like the show. Also, check out our sister show, What is Nerd? We're doing Superman this week. And finally, if you have any questions or comments, send us an email at wisportscast@gmail.com. So, as we mentioned, we are doing college football this episode. I don't know anything about college football. I actually watched my very first college football show this past weekend.
It's actually called a game, but not a show.
What did I say? I said show.
Yeah, I watched my first college football show.
My first match this weekend.
Yeah. You'll learn.
And just a kind of a quick announcement, we are doing a live episode this coming Sunday, September 1st at 5 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be doing our live fantasy football draft for the upcoming NFL season. So if you want to check it out, we'll be posting the link and stuff on social media. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and you'll get the info for that. Now, before we get into the main topic of college football, we got a couple of news updates. First, I got to admit, I volunteered to watch and cover the PGA FedEx Cup this weekend. I watched a little bit, but didn't pay that much attention.
Man, you missed out on a good one. But let me say this first.
Yeah.
I didn't watch all of it. I didn't watch a ton, but I watched a decent amount of the final round on Sunday. and it was close. I mean, if you're gonna watch any main PGA golf, this was the time to do it. It was very close, very tight competition, and it was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, well, and I see the final results. Results. I turned into a New Yorker for a second. Our final results are Rory McIlroy.
Rory McIlroy
Finished with a score of 18 under. Won $15 million.
That's pretty nice.
Golly, are you serious? He won $15 million?
15 mil.
Oh my gosh. The prize for winning a major is like way less than that, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is
for the whole.
man.
Yeah, it's for the whole season. It's the big. What they
So-
call it? The big. What was it? Tamale.
The big dance.
The big. Nah, man, that's basketball. But this is for everything. So it's the big tournament, the big thing at the end. So yeah. It's worth a lot more money.
Well, and then we got Xander Schauffele. Is it Schauffele? How do you pronounce that? Do you know?
It's Schauffele.
Schauffele?
No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea. I don't know.
It might be Chauffe. It might be like a weird French name. But anyways, he got second place with 14 under, winning $5 million. Still not bad.
That's not bad for the first loser.
Yeah. And then you got Brooks Koepka and Justin Thomas tied for third with getting 13 under, winning $35 million now, $3,500,000. But yeah, so that's the top three, and I guess there weren't any huge surprises, right?
Not really. I mean, I think a lot of people were expecting either Justin Thomas or Brooks Koepka just because Justin Thomas started at the number one spot and at the final tournament, and then Brooks Koepka has had such a strong season. But I mean, Rory McIlroy, he's a great golfer. He's obviously one of the top golfers in the world, and so it's not really a surprise. But I mean, when you get 30 golfers, 30 of the best golfers in the world, anything can happen. And Rory McIlroy just turned it on when he needed it to, and played really well.
Nice. Okay. Well, now moving on to racing, some motorsport. I watched a little bit of motorsport this weekend. We had the Bommarito Automotive Group 500 at Gateway, and now so this was the third to last race of the IndyCar season. Joseph Newgarden, he's the series leader, the season leader. He got first place, and so he kind of went even further ahead with his lead in the overall season. But we did have a change in runners-up for the season overall, which it's been a while since we've seen that. Alexander Rossi's been in second place for a long time this season. He was finally passed by Simon Pagenaud, which Pagenaud, if y'all remember, we watched the Indy 500.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and Pagenaud was the guy who won that. So we got a little bit of change up. The top five are still the same. Scott Dixon's in fourth, and Will Power's still in fifth, with Takuma Sato in sixth. So it seems like we're pretty locked in with this ordering. I mean, there's 2 races left, so stuff can still change, but something crazy has to happen.
Hey guys, speaking of racing, have y'all heard this new show on Netflix called Hyperdrive?
No.
I'm not.
Man, I watched a little bit of it. It's basically a mix between IndyCar or like the Fast and Furious and American Ninja Warrior. It's pretty awesome. They get these top drivers from around the world, and basically it's like do a bunch of stunts, and there's like a track that they run through and everything. It's very entertaining.
Wait, so is it like a mixture of running and driving?
No, it's I mean they're just driving on this course. They have to do certain things in the vehicle, and they're racing against time. And you know it's kind of like American Ninja Warrior, where the fastest time wins. And it's pretty entertaining. They have all like these souped up cars, and they have to like at one point they drive through water, which doesn't sound cool, but it is. And then
so it's like an obstacle course,
basically
for driving, right?
Yes, yeah.
That sounds awesome. Like because I mentioned on the American Ninja Warrior episode, they have that show Ultimate Beastmaster that's really good on Netflix, and it's funny how that type of thing is surprisingly good for binging. You know, like I mean you can just kind of kill a few hours just watching a few episodes of it. But that sounds cool, though. Yeah. I'll check that out. Well, other racing events upcoming. We have Sunday, September 1st is going to be the second to last IndyCar race. That's the Grand Prix of Portland. It's on NBC this Sunday afternoon. Formula One also has a race, the Belgian Grand Prix, which will be Sunday morning, September 1st. And then there will also be a NASCAR race, which I said that I would watch. The
Bojangles?
Yeah, Bojangles.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. Bojangles Southern 500. And so I'm going to be watching a lot of races this coming Sunday.
Drink some Budweiser and sit back and,
Oh, yeah.
It's actually Bud Light.
But anyways, that's kind of what's going on in motorsports, though, at the moment. And now, so the one last thing that I have to talk about, I want to give a little shout out to Major League Soccer. We talk about all kinds of sports. We're not a regional show or anything like that. But I got to give a shout out to FC Dallas, our Major League Soccer team. Now, last episode and on social media, I talked about how FC Dallas was currently in 8th place last week. They were 3 points behind Portland, they were tied with Portland in the standings. Now, Portland lost their game last weekend, so that means they got 0 points. FC Dallas won their game last weekend against Houston, so that means FC Dallas is currently in 7th place and is eligible for playoffs. So,
all right,
woo woo. And now the way that the Western Conference is right now, FC Dallas is in 7th with 40 points. The second place team is Real Salt Lake with 43 points. So again, Western Conference is the conference where all the teams are like jammed together. They're super close as far as standings go. So interesting stuff for MLS. All right, so I'm done with my news stuff. What do you got for us, Nick? You got something?
Yeah, just the Little League World Series wrapped up this past weekend, and the U.S. won. More specifically, Louisiana, they defeated Curacao 8-0 in the finals. Louisiana was representing the Southwest region, while Curacao was the Caribbean team. And it's actually the first time since 2009 that the U.S. won the Little League World Series in back-to-back years. So, hey, that's pretty cool.
Well, okay, what else we got going on? JP, we got the U.S. Open coming up, right?
Yes, actually, it started today. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. So it started today because it normally runs like late August to like the first week of September. I think the second week always coincides with Labor Day. So, so anyway, it started today. I can give you like a few updates. Not too many because it just started. I know
it's still early, right?
Yeah. It's still very early. One notable player, as far as the men are concerned, Djokovic won his opening match, which is
that's not surprising.
Yeah, which
right?
is not, and he is the defending U.S. Open champion. So anyway, he won his first one, and as far as the women go, the British number one Konta, she won against this lady called Kasatkina. Anyway, she won it. She started off. Konta started off pretty dominant, but ended winning in 3 sets. And Venus Williams also won. There's one upset. With the women is former world number one Kerber. She ended up losing to someone
in the first round.
Yeah, in the first round. So, I mean, as far as upsets, like I guess that's if you were like a close follower of tennis, then you would understand who she is. But really, not too much news so far.
Well, we'll get more into it next episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Because honestly, I actually love tennis now. I think that some of my favorite sports that I've watched this summer, or since we've started doing the show, has been like the finals and the semifinals of these tennis tournaments that we've been following.
Yeah.
It's so tense and
It
so
is.
much fun. Yeah.
It is. And
Like, I think that the Nadal Federer fight, it was Djokovic and Federer, right? For the Wimbledon,
the French Open.
Right? No, Wimbledon.
Oh, Wimbledon. What? That's the French Open. No, it's different.
French Open was Nadal and Federer, right, JP?
Yes, it was. But
Okay.
but was Federer in the final at Wimbledon, or was it somebody else?
No, I can't believe I'm talking tennis right now. Federer beat Nadal in the semifinals.
Okay, at Wimbledon.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
at
right.
Wimbledon.
Because I was so excited, and then I remember that, and
Yeah.
but I was so excited, but I knew that he probably would not beat Djokovic.
Yeah, but anyways, that was like
That was a lot of fun.
That was my favorite thing I've watched,
Yeah.
like in sports since we started the show. That was phenomenal.
I agree.
So-
I don't really watch a lot of tennis. Obviously, JP's the tennis guy in the show, but that I think it was on Sunday morning. I was like, I'll watch it. Probably won't take too long. And then 5
it's
hours
5 hours
later,
later.
Yeah.
it was awesome. So yeah, I'm excited about the U.S. Open too. Probably won't watch it until like the final matches because that's obviously where
Yeah.
the best players are. But it'll be a lot of fun.
Well, and that's for me, me being a teacher, and I had the whole summer off, and so I could just watch tennis like all the time, every day. And so I'm gonna miss not being able to do that. But hey, I mean, I got to work, for a living, so.
Yeah. Well, you can catch it on the weekend, so you'll have
Exactly.
you'll have this weekend coming up. A lot of good tennis this weekend, and also they play on Sundays. Wimbledon does not play on Sundays, but U.S. Open does, so that'll give you one extra day.
Okay, now to transition to our main topic for today, college football. Now, you guys know that I'm totally ignorant about college football. One thing that I'm going to come out right off the bat to say is that college football seems a little bit overwhelming to me because it's always changing so much, right?
I mean that's valid, and there's so many teams. I feel like there are more teams in college and more things to pay attention to than in the NFL. And if you don't know what to look for or understand any of it, it can definitely feel overwhelming.
Yeah, but I want to know, Nick. I want to be a part of it. So, Nick, what do I need to know to be a part of the college football experience?
Well, there's a lot, like I said, but in this episode, we'll kind of break it down and probably simplify it, but it'll still be complicated. But there's a lot to it, so we'll just get into it. It actually started this past weekend. The University of Miami.
Yep, that's the first college football game I've ever watched.
The Miami Hurricanes and the
Mm-hmm.
Florida Gators squared off, did battle, and Florida came ahead 24-20, and it was a major victory for the University of Florida.
Yeah, it was a really fun game. I liked how competitive it was and how close the game was, and it's funny because the coaches were flipping out. I feel like the coaches in college sports, because y'all remember Bruce Pearl from the which team was that?
Was he Auburn?
Do what? Yes, yeah, I believe so. From the March Madness tournament, and I love the coaches in college football because they seem like they are so much more animated and invested. I mean, granted, professional coaches are too, but it seems like college sports coaches are such characters. And also, I noticed one big takeaway that I took from the game is the behavior of the players in college versus professional. The players were on each team, they're in each other's faces and stuff, ready to
getting real chirpy.
Yeah, man, they did not like each other. And
University of Florida, University of Miami, that's a pretty big rivalry.
Uh-huh.
It's not as big as it used to be, but you think about it, you got kids, it's interstate schools, and they're rivals. There's a lot of bad blood between them.
It's like they're young and they're not they haven't been coached on how to be I guess media savvy, I guess, so it's they're getting all pumped up and into it and stuff, and that type of energy is actually pretty cool to watch,
Yeah, and I think that's just the college football atmosphere.
Uh-huh.
That's the way it's just always been when I've watched it. And I mean, I think college football is way more exciting than the NFL. Just partly because of that reason. You know, there's more school spirit. There's no contracts on the line, or there are a lot of people in the NFL. Just are playing, I guess, for money, really.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine college athletes are playing with the hopes of a career in the future, but it's like at the moment they're pretty much just playing to prove themselves, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and I mean they just want to do the best they can, and that's one thing. And I totally agree with JP. I actually enjoy watching college football so much more than NFL for a variety of reasons. One being that you have kids that come and go so often, so there can be so much change in the landscape usually with a program. Granted, Alabama's been one of the best programs in the last several years, but you have a bunch of rising and falling programs that happens all the time. And you have some crazy, like Deets, you're talking about how the kids were being kind of chirpy, and
Yeah.
JP, you mentioned how anything can happen. I mean, there's so many miraculous plays that you really don't see in the NFL that you see in college football. That's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And also, one of my favorite things about college football is when you have smaller schools upsetting the bigger schools. Because in the NFL, most teams are pretty even for the most part. I mean, yeah, there's some good teams and bad teams, but it's not as big of a deal. If an NFL team loses, it's just a loss. Well, if a big program, let's say, Alabama, loses to, South Dakota State, which is, I don't know, they're not good. I guess they're a smaller school. If they could be good, I don't know. But if they lose to them, that's going to look bad and hurt their chances to playing for a national championship.
Yeah, and I mean, I think college football, because there's so much widespread talent with college football. Like when it comes to the pros, everybody is so dang good. You don't get those a lot of those crazy plays that you see in college football, and
so what makes a crazy college football play crazy?
Well, have you heard the play or seen the play? I think it's called "The Band's Still on the Field."
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, it happened, I don't remember when, I want to say like maybe the 80s, I can't remember. Anyways, I believe it was, JP, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it was UCLA and Cal. I can look it up later. Kids, look it up. You'll just Google it, you'll find it. But basically, long story short, I believe it was Cal. The game was pretty much over, and they're just lateraling the ball back and forth, trying to avoid getting tackled so they can try to score. And the band is on the field. No, I think it's Cal and Stanford, actually. And
maybe Stanford.
And anyways, one of the bands is on the field, and then the players like running through the band to score a touchdown and win the game. And then you have the Doug Flutie Hail Mary when he was with Boston College, and Vince Young crossing the goal line against the USC Trojans to lead Texas to a national championship. There's just a lot of these crazy moments that are so exciting that you can't make it up. Like they're just so entertaining and just
it's just like kind of Deets, and also those upsets. Deets, you understand by watching the NCAA basketball tournament, you can. Some of those, they were upsets and they were buzzer beaters. I mean, it's kind of that same feeling you get with a buzzer beater with one of those. It's just that's a buzzer beater is like one of those crazy college football players. Last second. It's just, I mean, that kind of you can see that kind of excitement in the NFL, but it's just not as often. And
I'm actually watching the band Still on the Field play right now. I pulled it up, and that is insane.
And so
awesome.
And so college football also, it's a bunch of great future NFL players playing with good athletes who are not good enough to make it to the NFL. So so that makes it more like anything can happen.
Cool.
But to break it down, so there are a lot of colleges and universities in the country.
Right.
The top dog is Division I, and those are the bigger schools. That's where you have the Big 12, SEC, Pac-12, ACC, Big 10. Those are the main conferences, and they're actually in the Division I bowl division. bowl subdivision. That's what it's called.
Okay.
And then you also
Division
have
1 bowl subdivision.
And then you also have the Division I FCS, which is the football championship subdivision. These are still pretty big schools, but you'll have but they're smaller. When I say small, I mean like the Ivy League schools are in them, like Brown, Yale, Harvard, and some other ones as well. And the difference is the FBS, they play for the big national championship game, while the the Division I FCS schools participate in a playoff system run by the NCAA. And then you have Division II, which is smaller schools. There's about 300 of them. And then below that, you have Division III, and it's the widest pool because there are a lot of small schools, and they don't actually give out athletic scholarships.
Okay.
And when we went to, for those who don't know, the three of us were roommates at the University of Texas at Tyler. And that's when we were at school, that was a Division III school, and they actually moved up to a Division II.
Okay,
So-
but they don't have a football team still, right?
Correct.
But
But-
see, okay, TJC, okay, that's Tyler Junior College, y'all. It was they did have a football team, right? That was the local community college in Tyler, right? They had a football team, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
What
Yeah,
division
they
would
did.
they be?
Well, I mean, they're a junior college, so,
Oh,
they're,
so that's a different thing
it's
entirely?
a completely different thing. yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
But when people talk about college football, more likely than not, they're talking about Division I, the football bowl subdivision, and that's the FBS, and that's where all the big teams are.
Okay, so how many teams or how many schools are in that division again?
There are a lot.
Okay.
A good handful. I don't know the exact number, but that's what we're going to be talking about mainly tonight. So, you have, there's a total of 10 conferences, and some of the smaller ones are the American Athletic Conference, or the AAC, Conference USA, the MAC, the Mid-American Conference, the Mountain West, and the Sun Belt. And those are some pretty big schools, but they're smaller in comparison to the Power 5 Conference.
Power 5.
Yes, these are the main conferences where the best schools play in.
Okay, and so to narrow it down further, the Power 5 are the conferences that, if I'm a newbie to college sports, those are the ones that I should be paying attention to, right?
Yes,
Okay.
and it's not like a separate division. It's just that's what people refer to them as.
Right.
So you have the Atlantic Coast Conference, or the ACC.
Okay.
There's 14 teams in there, and they're mainly in the south and eastern part of the country along the Atlantic coast.
Okay.
Some top teams in there. You have Clemson, Duke, Florida State, Miami, and North Carolina State.
Gotcha.
Then you have the Big 12, which has 10 teams.
What? That
yeah.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Well, so the way it happened, so originally there were 12 teams, but there has been conference realignment, and several teams have left. Nebraska left, Texas A&M and Missouri, they left. Colorado.
Why
they left for the-
did they leave?
Well, it depends who you ask. I think, to be honest, I'm not really sure.
Is
I
that
think,
why? Because I feel like growing up, I feel like A&M football was a big deal, but I feel like nowadays it's not as big of a deal. Is this why? Because they're not in the Big 12 anymore?
No, actually, I would say A&M football is a bigger deal now.
Okay.
Than it used to be.
I'm just ignorant.
No, just because they're in the most dominant conference, which is the SEC. Well, in my opinion,
okay.
in a lot of people's opinion, the most dominant conference because
Gotcha.
it just there are so many power teams in the SEC.
Well, since I know we're getting you off track a little bit, Nick, but I mean,
no, it's fine.
But okay, so because the rivalry between UT and A&M was always a big thing back in the day, right?
Oh yeah, it's one of the oldest and biggest rivalries.
But has that changed since A&M is no longer part of the Big 12?
Yeah, I mean they don't play anymore. Normally, I mean they might play in for basketball and baseball, they might play in a tournament against each other.
Uh-huh.
But as far as football is concerned, they haven't played in several years.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it depends who you ask. It's just a bunch of lot of tension and a bunch of egos get in the way, a bunch of stubbornness, essentially.
Because you said that UT's new, or UT's current rival is OU, right?
Well, that's their biggest, and I'm probably gonna get a lot of flack from A&M fans, but it's definitely their main rival. It's more of a close series. I think the win-loss total for each team, they're within 10 victories against each other or something like that. And then the UT A&M rivalry really isn't close.
Okay. Well, and so are UT and OU the two top teams in the Big 12?
Yes, and they are, but you also have Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, West Virginia is actually in the conference too. They were realigned into the Big 12, and Kansas is a big team mainly just for the basketball program. But yeah, so it's basically the South and a little bit in the Midwest.
Okay.
But then you have the Big 10, and they have 14 teams.
Wait, hold on. So there's a Big 12 that has 10 teams, and then there's a Big 10 that has 14 teams, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, not confusing at all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Deets, yeah, I can totally understand why it can seem overwhelming with stuff like this. But yeah, the Big 10, like I said, there was conference realignment, and teams joined the conference. And that's mainly in the Northeast and Midwest. You have Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, and Wisconsin. Those are kind of your big teams in that conference. Then you have the Pac-12, which actually has 12 teams. So that's actually accurate. Yeah, it used to be the Pac-10, but they're
my favorites then.
just because for simplicity's
yes.
sake. But yeah, they're mainly on the Pacific Coast. The big teams there: Cal, UCLA, Oregon, USC, Stanford, and actually Washington has been pretty good lately.
It's interesting that Stanford is on there. It seems like because that's an Ivy League school, isn't it?
No, Stanford isn't.
Okay.
But they are very they're very prestigious when it comes to academics. So they're not an Ivy League school, but academically, I think they're close to it. Yeah, they're up there for sure. And then moving on, you have the Southeastern Conference, or the SEC. The main schools, and it's mainly in the Southeast, hence the name. It has 14 teams in its league or its conference, and the main schools there are Florida, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and Auburn, and Texas A&M's in there as well. And like JP said, they are definitely the most dominating conference. They've won the last several national championships. They're wrecking shop.
Oh, so this might be a really stupid question. And so these divisions and stuff only pertain to football, yes?
Yeah, for the most part, there are... Well, no, sorry, I take that back. If you're in one conference, you're going to stay in that conference for all sports.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I believe so. I think there are some exceptions, but for the most part, it's not like... LSU's in the SEC for football, but when it comes to basketball, they're in the ACC or anything.
Yeah, you can change divisions though.
Okay.
You can your school can be say Division 1 in football, but Division 2 in basketball.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, don't ask me how, why, or
well,
what.
That makes sense because if you're having like a lot of schools that we saw in the NCAA tournament. The March Madness tournament, Gonzaga. I'd never heard of the school before.
Yeah, that's in a different. So there are different basketball.
Yeah, because
conferences.
Because I guess a school could specialize in a single sport, in one sport, but not in another. Because I don't think I've definitely never heard of Gonzaga's football team before.
Right.
Yeah, I was about to say don't think you'll hear about their football team because you won't.
Right. Okay. So we got these divisions. Were there any other divisions that you didn't hit?
No, that's pretty much them.
Power 5.
Those are the main ones. You also have some independent schools that aren't affiliated with a conference,
like Notre Dame,
BYU, and Army.
So who do they play then?
They play whoever. They do have some. They do set the schedule, so I know Notre Dame, they play USC, I think every year. They play Navy every year. They play Stanford a lot. So they do play some some regular teams, but
Why
they don't.
Why aren't they part of a conference?
That's a good question. I don't know. They just haven't been. Notre Dame hasn't been part of a conference.
Is it because they're
in a
private
long
schools? Isn't Notre Dame a private school?
I think so. I believe that's right, but I don't know why they're independent.
Okay.
I know that we were talking about basketball. I believe Notre Dame is in the Big East when it comes to basketball, so they are part of a conference that way.
Okay.
Or maybe it's the AACC. I don't remember.
So weird.
So each conference they have standings within their conference, and every team has most conferences have 2 divisions within that conference, and at the end of the regular season, the top 2 teams face each other in a conference championship game.
Okay.
To see who was like the best of the conference for that year. And do you know anything about how the polls work?
Nope.
Or the rankings? So there are a handful of polls, but the main one that's used at the beginning of the season is the AP poll, or the Associated Press poll. And you want to be in the top, obviously. And to about week 10, that's the most important poll. And then the college football playoff rankings come into play. And you want to be in the top 4, because once you're in the top 4, you go on to the college football playoffs at the end of the season to try to be the national champion.
Okay.
And
is this where they play bowl games?
Yes. They play bowl games after the conference championship games.
Okay.
And there are a ton of bowl games. I'm sure we'll cover more of this later once it comes that time of year. And that's usually November, December, and there are a few games in January as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the bowl games, they're a lot of fun because they pit teams from different conferences against each other. And so, you want, usually if you're, I'm a big UT fan. And so I usually pull for the Big 12 because that's the conference UT is a part of. And so there's conference pride on it, and you want to see who had the best conference that year. And so it's pretty cool. JP, do you like watching bowl games?
Yeah, I love bowl games. It seems like there's always a new bowl game at the beginning of some bowl game that I've never heard before. But I mean, as far as the big bowl games, like I don't know, just the Sugar Bowl, the
Cotton Bowl.
I mean, the Cotton Bowl. You have
Turkey Bowl. Turkey Bowl's a game, right?
No.
No, it's not.
No. You have the Rose Bowl. That's another big one, and the Fiesta Bowl. And one of my favorite bowls.
The Peach Bowl.
Yeah,
Wow.
Peach Bowl, Gator Bowl.
Orange Bowl.
There's a lot. Yeah, Orange Bowl. Yeah, one of my favorite bowls. I don't think it's still I think they changed the sponsor, but I really was a big fan of the PapaJohns.com bowl. I thought that name was awesome.
I'd be like, give me the pasta bowl.
I mean, it's so ridiculous. You get all these sponsors, and so you have all these crazy names now. But yes, that's bowl season. But the 4 teams that they go into the college football playoffs.
Well, sorry. So is a bowl? Explain what a bowl game is, though. Like, is it like a playoffs match or playoffs match?
No,
Playoffs
it's just one standalone game. It's just. I mean, they've had these games going on for years.
Do they matter more than regular games?
Say that again.
Do they matter more than regular games, like in the rankings and stuff?
Just for end of season rankings, yeah. I mean, they are important. Obviously, you want your team to win, and it's just fun to see. Like I said earlier, kind of which conferences are the best. You say, oh well. The SEC did great, or the Pac-12 completely dominated every other team that they faced. So I mean, there is a lot of conference pride in it, but also it's just fun to see who the best teams were, because some of these teams normally wouldn't play each other.
Gotcha.
And it's just fun because you're typically playing teams in your conference.
It's almost like the soccer tournament that I was talking about last episode, the UEFA. Champions League, where people from different soccer leagues play each other. It's almost like that, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. And because a lot of the conferences too kind of have their own playing style. Like the Big 12 is known for being a spread offense where they pass the ball a lot and a lot of high-scoring games. And then you have teams in the Big Ten, which are a lot more run heavy, and so they're a lot more focused on strong defense. And so these teams have this reputation, and it's kind of fun to see these different playing styles against each other. So it's fun.
Cool.
But
well, okay. So what else do I need to know? I finally just looked at your notes page, and I see it's like 20 pages long. But
yeah,
so
I've been trying to keep it short. I know I talked a lot already. That's just saying, there's so much to it.
Yeah.
And but I just wanted to kind of go over some of the top teams historically for those who may not know this. Based on overall wins, Michigan has the most with 953.
Oh wow!
Followed by Ohio State, who has 911. Texas has 908, and then Yale has a 907. They're actually in the FCS. That's the one under the FBS. Alabama has 905 wins, and Notre Dame has 897. And if you're looking at best teams historically based on national championships, which are very important, Alabama has the most with 15. Notre Dame has 13. Michigan has 9. USC, the University of Southern California, has 9. Ohio State has 8, and then the top school that has the most national championships is actually Yale.
Wow.
With 18. So that's pretty impressive. And then
were they when there's like all in the late 1800s or something?
Yep. The last national championship was in 1927. So there's kind of a drought, but they currently have the most. And then Princeton actually is tied at second overall with 15, and they've their last one was won in 1922. So the Ivy League hasn't really been winning much lately, but hey, you know.
I feel like the age of the schools is the like one of the big contributing factors with that.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah,
cool.
I mean, do you have any other questions? I mean, I know that we just kind of like did a quick run through.
I got a real big question.
All right.
How do I get into it?
Watch it pretty much every Saturday.
But
I think you'll like it more than the NFL. I really do.
Well,
and also,
do I need to pick a team though? Do I need to pick a team?
It's more fun if you have a team, but really you can enjoy college football on its own. Like we said, so many crazy things happen. If you're watching a game and it'll tell you where the team's ranked. There'll be a number by them. So like, okay, I don't know who's a good team. Let's say Ohio State. They're doing very well, and they're ranked 7th, and they're facing, I don't know, the dodgy school for the blind, and the dodgy school for the blind is actually winning. You might want to watch it for an upset. You know, just say no deets. There isn't really a dodgy school for the blind. That's usually a reference to a smaller school that shouldn't compete against these bigger schools, but. So yeah, I mean, it's just fun to watch. There's a lot, like JP said, there's a lot of excitement, and a lot of, there's a bunch of college kids are going crazy.
Deets, get up on Saturday morning, turn into ESPN and watch College Game Day. Okay, that'll help you get into the college football because they're talking about the teams, the matchups of the day. They have special guests. Maybe it's like an actor or somebody, but they talk about different players, and I don't know. It's just that'll help get you into it.
That's good. I will do that.
Yeah. So I mean with me that's I mean I don't watch it every week, but I mean that's because half the time I have something going on. But it's just a fun way to start your Saturday with some college football. And also, I like college football because it's on a Saturday. You get to watch the games and know the next day is a Sunday. You still don't have to go back to work or whatever. NFL, is on a Sunday, okay? And it's later in the day, and it's just like, I can enjoy this right now, but you have work on your mind. And so a lot of times I just affiliate the NFL with going just the new school week or the work week or whatever. And so it's just kind of.
That's like me with that's what bothers me about HBO. Usually, whenever they have new episodes of whatever show they're doing on, it's on Sunday night. It's the worst.
Yeah, I know, because you can't enjoy it because you're just
I'm usually
anxious or
usually
whatever.
working. I'm usually working while watching that stuff. Anyways,
Yeah.
but so yeah, that's cool though. Saturday mornings, college game day. I will set that reminder. So was there anything else that y'all wanted to mention before we wrapped up the episode?
Just that college football is starting up, and highly recommend anybody watch it because it's a lot of fun. And Dietz isn't intrigued by it, so if Dietz can get into it, you can get into it. So
Yeah,
highly
well,
recommend
yeah.
it.
And I will say that the college game that I watched, I did enjoy more than the Dallas Cowboys game that I watched because they played against the Texans.
But Deez, I do think that you'll end up liking college basketball more than football because basketball is like you can see the players; they're not too like distant, and so I do think you won't like it as much as college basketball, but it's definitely exciting.
Yeah, and we'll get into as I get into football. I'll kind of share my thoughts as we go, like comparing it to the other stuff we've gotten into. I just can't wait for playoffs though. Like playoffs are my favorite thing. But I don't want to wait until then to start watching. So
No, definitely not.
yeah. All right, cool. Well, and I guess do you guys want to like agree on like a game to watch this weekend, and we can talk about it next episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll post that on. We'll discuss that and post that on social media, and we'll come back and talk about it next week. Sound good, y'all?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's,
sure.
it's exciting. It's the
Cool.
best homework I've ever had in my life.
All right. Well, that does it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Next week, I think we're going to talk a lot about the U.S. Open. Probably talk more about football. Nothing too massive and pressing happening other than the U.S. Open. So, we'll probably have a bit of a mixed bag episode. So if you enjoyed what you heard, give us a like on social media on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at WhatIsSports1, no question mark. Also, of course, subscribe to our show on your podcasting app if you haven't yet. And if you enjoy the show, please give us a 5-star rating. That gives us a big boost in the iTunes store and helps us grow our listener base.
Or any rating you feel is applicable.
Yes, exactly, because we're all about feedback. If you think we suck, let us know. We'll do what we can and
To make it better.
And finally, tune in next Wednesday whenever we come back with our next episode. Until then, have a good week. We'll see y'all then.